Hey. It is, what is it? It is, September 20th, 2025, and it is about 3, 3:10 p.m. Uh, so I was sort of thinking of making a video today because I wanted to take a walk, but this was about maybe 2 hours ago that I was thinking of that. But then I decided not to, and I took a little nap, I guess. And yeah, it was. I'm glad I did, I guess, and instead I'm doing it now because before it was a teeny bit colder, and I don't think it was as sunny. But right now it is very clear or whatever, very sunny, and it's just that due to that it is just a teensy bit hotter. And there's like very few clouds. There's a few clouds, but not really many big ones. And yeah, I wanted to get some sun anyway. And I figure if I was gonna do that, I might as well make a video. Hadn't made one in a while, so I was like, what the hell? And I feel like I've had stuff to like. I've thought of things to talk about, but for some reason, somewhat recently, I've been having trouble getting the I don't know if the word motivation or whatever, maybe a little bit, but probably more like getting the desire to make a video or to record something while I'm talking or while I'm walking and talking and shit, and even just like sitting on my computer or whatever. I don't know. I kind of I think about it. I think about it, and then I'm just like, I don't really feel like doing that or whatever. Or I feel like I'll start talking about something, and then I won't like something specific, but then I won't be able to like continue on about it outside of like the topic introduction. Like I won't know how to expand upon the topic or whatever. So I'm just like, fuck it. I just won't do it then. It was kind of interesting just before I left the house, before I decided to just leave the house just a few minutes ago. Because I was thinking, I'm like, man, maybe that's not the, maybe in these kind of instances, maybe that's not the way. One, not the way to look at it, and two, not the way to do it. Because it was funny. I was thinking of other things that I would talk about. For some reason, I was thinking of other things I would talk about if I took a walk. Just normal things that I would kind of just talk about or whatever. Like stuff that stuff kind of like in this case that I would just kind of talk about in the introduction. Usually, like a few things that have been going on recently or whatever that aren't necessarily about the specific quote unquote interesting topics. But then when I was thinking about those things, when I was thinking about those things, then it made me think about uh, what I would talk about afterwards. And for some reason, that was like almost reassuring, or whatever you want to say. Like that was almost it was like affirming. I was like, okay, I would talk about something, things that are more mundane, or whatever you want to say. And then that would kind of lead into stuff, and then expanding it more afterwards on other topics. At least that was the thought. And with that thought, it just kind of made more sense to do it than it just kind of made more sense to do it. So I was like, all right, screw it. I don't know what I'm looking at here on this ground here. I think they moved. I think they moved the stupid bike lane. I could be wrong, because they had like a line, a white, as the normal white lines you see on the street to what do you call it? Divide the sections or whatever. And around here, they started putting like these little, well, not even that little, but like relatively small sections for like a bike lane. But I remember it was like farther out. And now I just kind of see where it would have been there. They put like gravel to like almost cover where they had painted. I don't even know if you consider that painting, but because it's like super thick, almost makes like a little bevel itself. That's probably what they did with this gravel or something to get rid of it. And then they put another one way even closer to the edge. And I'm like, what the heck is the point? What the heck was the point in the first place if you're gonna have a bike lane? Now, like, they still have the bike symbols periodically, but they still have the bike symbols periodically, but there's like no extra lane for the bikes. It's fucking weird. Very strange. But yeah, it is very comfortable right now. Even in the sun, it's like not very hot. I mean, I can see like if I'm just walking for like over an hour or something, I would probably get pretty hot. But right now, it is very comfortable. For me, it's like low 70s. But yeah, it is very nice today, and it's been nice the past few. Actually, no. I mean, yes and no. Yesterday it was like in the 90s. It was no, not 90s. It was kind of like upper 80s, mid 80s, which, considering now it's already basically supposed to be the fall, kind of. I think, technically. That was pretty fucking hot for considering that. But yeah, right now it's pretty comfortable right now. And I mostly wanted to just get some sun for the most part, but I figured, as I said, I should just make a video while I'm doing it. Yeah, but some of the topics I was going to kind of talk about were not the main ones, but the sort of like intro ones. I mean, even though I could get on the main ones if I wanted to, but I'm like, I might as well do those sort of introduction topics as I was. I don't know if the first one I was going to talk about was something different, but so I bought a. I mean, Rudy knows because I've been talking about this the past few days. Oh yeah, you know what? I guess I could. Yeah, I could. That was the first thing I was thinking I was going to talk about. My parents, both my mom and dad. Oh, got some bees. Got some bees out on some of these. These must be a much later blooming, like flowers or whatever. It's these. I don't know if you could see it well. It's these. I don't know what you call those. Like almost like a fluffy looking, like, you know, hundreds of little flowers on an end of a stem kind of thing. Whatever those are called, but must be much later blooming in the summer kind of plant, but those look pretty cool. Sure the pollinators like those. But yeah, my parents have been kind of sick the past couple of days. I'm guessing since they both got sick like around the same time. Yep, both got sick around the same time. My mom was sick for a few days, like maybe 2 or 3 days, and then my dad kind of started to get similar feeling or whatever for the past like 3 days. And I'm guessing it's just some kind of, you know, even though I don't believe in like viruses and all that nonsense, but you know, what people would call like a flu or whatever, probably something like a flu, you know, what COVID used to be, what COVID used to be, but now they still fucking call it the flu. It's like, get the fuck out of here, but stupid. As Rudy and I have talked about a good few times, is like, COVID has been memory hold. Unlike, well, at least for, people. That's the thing. People still talk about it, but they almost talk about it like it's a forbidden subject or whatever. Like they have to talk about it behind closed doors and in hushed voices and shit. Like it's so fucking weird. It was this massive thing that way bigger than, like, at the end of the day, way bigger than 9/11 in terms of like scope and how much it actually kind of like, you know, like supposedly directly affected or whatever. Way bigger than fucking COVID, than 9/11. But unlike 9/11, now people are just basically like they don't even remember it happening. I mean, it's not exactly like that, because they do. Like, if you brought it up, they would be like, "Oh yeah," but it's not something that people talk about. Like, really, they should be talking about almost every day or mention, like, because people. They talk about things like pre and post COVID world, like literally the entire fucking world changed from that event or whatever. And those like 4 or 5 years, 4 or 5 years that it was at its like the peak bullshit of it. But now it's like, once again, it's like a thing that is forbidden to be talked about or something, and like people avoid like talking about it or bringing it up, or like just forget that it was a thing. Like that entire like 4 or 5 years, like we just kind of just got, as I said, like memory hold. It's fucking strange. It is fucking strange. And, one might say it's like a trauma thing, where people are like, people are people are almost intentionally forgetting about it, or like blocking it out or some bullshit. Which, how ridiculous it was, I can understand that. But it is just fucking weird. But, yeah, besides that, my parents have had, like, some kind of flu the past, like, few days, and they'll be better, I'm sure, within a few days. But, interestingly enough, I haven't had the same effects almost at all. Like, I've had more, like, severe, certain, like, allergy symptoms. Say, I've been sneezing more. I've had my eyes itchy sometimes a little bit. Maybe, like, very on occasion, my throat will get, probably more often I'll wake up and I'll have to clear my throat a lot because it feels like congested and shit. Not so much today, but, strangely enough, but, so I've been feeling like slightly more severe allergy symptoms than I was a few weeks ago and all that. But not like what they've been feeling, so kind of interesting that I haven't been, like, affected by whatever. And that's the thing, is that the way I look at stuff is that there is no, like, viruses and this fucking bacteria shit or whatever, or at the very least, those aren't really even a factor nearly as much as people think they are. I don't know. It's, I'd say it's all based on energies and frequencies, and what frequency people are vibrating at or whatever. And clearly, I guess in this case, at least right now, I'm not on the same frequency as my parents right now, because I'm still in close proximity to them and everything. But I'm not feeling anything that they are. So yeah, just one of those things. And the other thing I was going to mention was, before I got on that, was I don't know why exactly I decided to do it. Well, I guess I kind of do. Is that I really wanted to do more videos while I was doing stuff like baking and shit. And I'd like one for the viewer as well as myself or whatever. I mean, it's not really for myself necessarily, but I like the idea of being able to record that kind of stuff and seeing what's going on, and not have to potentially constantly be concerned about where the camera is currently and stuff. And being able to see what's going on and not have, like, my extremities occupied, or just anything, but for mostly the cooking and baking shit. But not to have my extremities occupied by trying to fuck with a camera all the time, I guess. So I decided to get one of those action cameras, the more popular, probably the most prominent brand or whatever, GoPro. So I got a GoPro. I went on eBay. I specifically did a little bit of research beforehand, because I was like, I'd heard something that GoPros, they've gotten, just like everything, they've gotten shittier since they've had, like, newer versions, or like some of their newer versions and stuff have been shittier than their old ones. So I was like, all right, I'll look up like what version of GoPro that people seem to like a lot. And somehow I went through, like, a few threads and a few comments and, like, one Reddit thread or Reddit post or whatever, and a bunch of people mentioned GoPro 4, which is, like, some of the oldest models. I think it was, like, what kind of weird fucking naming convention? At least the ones that showed up on their site, like, they seem to have, like, a little history of all of them to some extent. They started at 3. I mean, of course, everything starts at 3. I think they started at 3, and then after that was 4, and then it went up from there. And I think they're probably up to, like, I don't know, who knows, like 12 or some shit now. But a lot of people were saying good stuff about GoPro 4. They were saying that was their favorite. And then, like, stuff like the software aspects of it and other things started to get more... After that, started to get shittier, and the build quality started to not be as good, or something like that. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll get a GoPro 4 or whatever. And you can't get it on, like, Amazon. I mean, I think you could, but the only ones that get listed are, like, absurdly expensive the way that they're listed on Amazon. So I went through eBay, and I saw a good few listings, and I saw one that had a head strap was included, and it seemed to have all the other accessories. I think the only thing that was like kind of visibly damaged that they brought up was like a tiny little chip off the corner of the face or some shit. But in total, it was, with the shipping and everything. What was it? Shipping and the taxes. It came out to like $73 or something for that and various accessories. Didn't come with a charger cable. Didn't come with a charger cable, and it didn't come with a SD card included. But it seemed to come with like everything else for the most part. And maybe I could have gotten it cheaper, but I don't know. Just the listing seemed transparent enough with what it was like giving that I kind of trusted it a little bit more due to that compared to some of the other listings. So I was like, all right, fuck it, just 73. That sounds reasonable to me. Even though the fucking thing is like, 10 years old, but the fact that it was probably better built and stuff than some of the newer ones, I was like, hey, screw it. And yeah, I like it. I like it. It arrived yesterday. I think it was yesterday it arrived. But then I realized I was like, okay, I can't even use it, which is fine. I was pretty much expecting that, but until you get an SD card. I mean, you can use it. You can go through the menus and stuff. But you can't actually record. Like, if you hit the record button, it just says no SD card and shit. Or if you try to take a photo, it says no SD card and shit. And it uses at least to charge it, it uses a mini USB cable, which is, I guess, was the model before the micro USB, the one where you can't see. Like, now the standard for the most part is the USB-C one, where it's uniform on both sides, so you could plug it in either way without issue. Like you could plug it in either orientation, it doesn't matter. But with the micro USB before that, there might have been ones even before that, but the ones that was primarily popular before the USB-C was the micro USB, and that one, because people are kind of retarded, people are kind of fucking retarded. They would damage those very often because they would try to plug it in like the wrong way or just not even think. So then they would plug it in the wrong way, and then they would fuck up the cable and the actual charging port itself by forcing it on there the wrong way. But that one, the micro USB, was pretty like flat. It's very flat profile. And before that was the less flat and fatter. I don't know if that was used for everything or if it was just used for certain things. The mini USB, they call it, mini USB. And weirdly enough, my calculator that I have, my graphing calculator, that has that uses a mini USB. So I was able to use the charger I used for that to charge the GoPro, even though it seemed to be full battery when I got it, pretty much. Unfortunately, I don't really know how well the batteries, how well it lasts. I'll just have to see. Supposedly somebody said like up to an hour or like an hour or some shit, which is not that long. So I'm probably gonna want to get like another 2 batteries or some shit, and then like a charging station little thing that they could go with. Because yeah, like 1 hour is not super long, considering like, say if I was baking or some shit, a bunch of stuff, it takes like multiple hours. But So yeah, I'm probably going to want to consider to get maybe another 2 batteries, but I'll see first. Once the SD card arrives, as well as what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the lapel microphone. Apparently the microphone is actually pretty good on the GoPro 4. It's one of the best, people say, but I'm not going to be talking into it like this, like with this podcast. Not so much podcast, but like I'm not going to be talking directly into it, because I want it to be first person, my perspective, as best emulation of my perspective. So I'm going to have this is probably going to fucking feel goofy as shit, but I'm going to have the head strap around my head, so the camera is going to be on my head. So I'm sure like the sound will reflect off of the walls and stuff all right to be able to hear me, but it probably won't be that great. Especially if I'm facing away from a wall at the time that I'm talking or some bullshit. So I figured it would just be better to just get a little like the wearable like lapel microphones and just use that for the audio. So I ordered one of those as well, but yeah, once that shit arrives, then I could kind of test like how good it is or whatever. I mean, I think it's a cool little device, the GoPro. It is very compact in terms of size, especially considering it was like 11 years ago that it was released, which is like pretty nuts. How compact it is for like a camera with supposedly pretty good quality and everything. And that was the other thing that was not mentioned, but I guess it doesn't really matter that much. But they have a little mini screen that shows you like the interface stuff for when you're doing settings and shit on the front. It's like what would you call those? It was like kind of like the liquid crystal. I don't know, is that LCD? No, it's not really liquid crystal. Maybe it could still be, but it's like the black and white pixelated kind of display. That was a lot more common, like, decades ago and shit. But yeah, it could be liquid crystal still. But on the back, it has a bigger, like, touchscreen sort of interface that basically serves the same function as that little front one. But then I realized, I was like, oh yeah, the front one seems to be broken because it doesn't ever go on, and all the other videos I saw have it on the front one. So I'm like, all right, so the front display was broken as well. But it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal as long as the touch screen on the back still works, I guess. So I'll just have to see, I suppose. But I mean, it's not like fucking $70 is that big of a fucking investment or whatever. But I'll have to see how the recording is, how the quality is, and all that. Because who knows? Maybe the thing that I'm doing, like cooking and baking, maybe its focusing will be too close to it'll be too close for it to like focus well on that or whatever. So it might not like come out very well. Not that it really fucking matters. It's not gonna be reading stuff. Like you're gonna be trying to read text or some shit with the GoPro, but I'll just have to see like if it's very bad quality from that point of view or whatever, as well as how comfortable it might be wearing the head strap for hours at a time. I have no clue, but just have to see, I guess. I mean, at the very least, the little lapel microphone, I would imagine, hopefully would have better quality than the phone itself for picking up audio and sounding decent. So even if there's for some reason the GoPro is a disappointment, at least the lapel microphone will probably be of use. But yeah, so I probably will be doing more videos like that after I get that other stuff arrives. When I do baking and cooking, and I don't know, it's just one of those things that I think is cool to potentially, like, kind of record or archive a little bit, like, doing something like that. And hopefully not being distracted on where the camera is as much, I'll maybe be able to even talk a little bit about stuff better while I'm doing that stuff at the same time, as well as I won't have to worry about having like the recipes written down on paper or whatever, because the phone would be occupied by the recording software. Because the audio recording software does not it doesn't get affected by being open or in focus or whatever. Like, it still records in the background, so I could do stuff like look at recipes on the phone or pictures, whatever. I have pictures of recipes and shit. I could look at those while I still have the GoPro recording, as well as the audio recording on the phone with the little lapel microphone. So that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something I thought would be interesting to be able to do that. I mean, maybe I'll record stuff still, like if I get comfortable doing that still, even if, like, say my mom is still home, like if she's not working or some shit, maybe I'll just say fuck it and just do whatever. Yeah, but I'll definitely do it. Probably prioritize doing it as I usually do with that stuff while she's at work in the morning, or at work during the week and stuff in the morning. But at that point, I feel like I'll probably just say fuck it and just record, even if she's around. It's like, whatever. But that's what I plan on doing in terms of, like, in-person recordings, like stuff. Once again, like, I feel like I haven't, since we've been talking, Rudy and I have been talking on, like, Discord or whatever. I haven't really had as much desire to talk about certain topics, like just solo or like vent about them or anything like that, because that's kind of been, the venting is talking to somebody else about the same shit, as well as the podcast things that we've been doing, the Reality Bender podcast things we've been doing. So it's like, but you know, as I'm doing right now, I'm still gonna probably do stuff like this. It's just only when the urge comes up. Like in this case, I mostly just wanted to take a walk and get some sun. And I think there was something else that I wanted to talk about, as it, like, that little section went on way longer than it probably should have, but whatever. I'm just talking about whatever I feel like it, so let it flow, fuck it. I think there was a third thing I was going to bring up, but I'm kind of drawing a blank on what it was. So I guess I'll start walking home, but or at least walking closer to home. And talk about the thing that Rudy made a video with the chaos, or a few videos with the involving the chaos theory thing that he described it as. Chaos theory, but he brought up the what was the way it was described, the thing. Oh yeah, it was from GTA 4, or what the fuck was it? Or no, was it GTA? Whatever GTA was talking about. One of the older ones that are more, maybe San Andreas or some shit, probably GTA San Andreas. But one of the older, more beloved, remembered, whatever, GTA games. Somebody made a video, or a few videos, or some other people had been bringing up the fact of the planes that would generate at weird times and seem to love to run into nearby buildings when people would exit exterior scenes, such as like a shop or some shit, and then back to they would transition from the interior scene to an exterior scene, and like within a minute, not even the like a plane would come by, like a small plane or some shit, and run into fucking buildings. And basically the kind of using that as a sort of analogy to how the reality kind of works around us, or stuff like works around us, the reality generation beings, or whatever you want to say, the generator beings or whatever, and it may, obviously, because that's what it made me think right away, because that's what it is in that context, or in that example. So I said, I was like, maybe I'll put my 2 cents in there, or at least my knowledge of like coding or whatever, and some stuff with game programming and shit specifically. I'll put my hat in there and try to explain it a little bit more, or a little bit more possibly based on that. But my best example would be from the code base and stuff that I have direct experience with, that being stuff like making mods for the game Daggerfall Unity. But like at the end of the day, what I'm going to talk about pretty much functions the same for like almost all games, and even just any software that has user input in general. But it is best kind of seen through video games, usually, just how it manifests or whatever, and it's used. But the concept of like things like events, they would call them events in like a coding language. Generally, they would either call them events. They have different terms for them, but I think the most common ones are probably events and signals. At the very least, C#, the C# language calls them events, and Godot, the game engine, the free game engine, calls them signals. And these events and signals are sort of self-descriptive in their name, sort of, a little bit. Like, you kind of, like, they're a pretty decent name description or whatever from that. But like, pretty much something happens, some specific thing happens, and when that specific thing happens, I think they would call those like I would usually call those like the trigger or whatever. But when something happens, a reaction occurs. Like, a reaction occurs based on that event or signal occurring. And these events and signals are predefined in the code to have a reaction occur at that moment. So like the programmer or whatever has to specifically say, at this point in the code's execution, this event triggers a reaction. At this specific point in code, when a previous line is run, when there's this trigger line of code at this point, a predefined a predefined thing occurs, kind of. Like, it's not the best way that I'm kind of describing it in that way, I think, in English. But, like, basically, when this line occurs, a signal, or whatever you want to say, a impulse, a reaction is put out, and any other things that are what is called subscribed, kind of like, funny enough, with who knows if that was intentional or whatever, kind of like with YouTube subscriptions, but any other parts of the code that are subscribed to this specific signal or event, they all get told this thing happened. This thing happened. So, like, it's, it is basically like, it's a good way to kind of put it, used for other language or whatever, other examples, is subscription, is a subscription, just like if you were subscribed to a newsletter, every time that a event happens for that newsletter or something that they define as noteworthy to be sent to others, to their subscription members, they all get sent that at that time. That reaction, or the fact that reaction just occurred, all of them get sent that are currently subscribed to that thing. So, one, potentially, you could have a signal or an event defined, and that happens or gets, like, put out to everything, but have nothing subscribed to it. Nothing subscribed to that event. You could have nobody care. And even though that's that reaction or whatever that gets put out, nobody's listening. Nobody's listening. But you could also have a limitless amount of people or things listening as well to that same thing. Like, you could have 1,000 things that you'd have 10 things, 20 things, 100 things, 1,000 things, 10,000 things that are subscribed to that, and all get told when that occurs. And those individual things that are subscribed have their own predefined things occur when that reaction happens that they are subscribed to. So they have to individually define what happens when that event occurs. So one could have the thing that they're subscribed to. One could have that they're subscribed to. They can have it so when that thing occurs that they're subscribed to, that I don't know, that a red light flashes or something. That red light flashes 5 times. And another one could have something write text to a file, like some specific text to a file. This wouldn't be probably a very good way to do it, because then you would have potentially a loop of being subscribed to things, and then that causes more subscriptions and then more repeats of that same signal. So you probably wouldn't want. I mean, you can. It does occur. It's just it can be risky if you don't. It can be risky and lead to potentially a cascade of subscribing to the same event over and over, and then having those repeat multiple times over and over. But you probably wouldn't want to subscribe to something else after a thing that you're subscribed to does a thing or reacts or whatever, sends out a signal. It's not great that I'm using some of these words like sort of interchangeably, but hopefully I'm making some sense. But yeah, the thing that is subscribed to that thing has to define what happens on an individual level. What thing happens when that thing they're subscribed to does something, or like when that thing occurs. Say, and hopefully, I think that hopefully makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying there. But so in GTA San Andreas' example is that the event that is defined is your character leaving. Well, I mean, there's endless, not so much endless, but there's fucking so many things that will likely work in the same way. That will likely work in the same way in almost any game. Like, not every game or software really uses, like, events and stuff like this heavily. It really just depends on what how they're trying to do it. I mean, you could kind of, like, you can make stuff happen in similar ways even without events, but events, they do just kind of make it, if you do it properly, they make it cleaner. So they make it cleaner and more efficient to have certain things occur when something specific happens. So, like, in this case, say you only want to know whenever your character goes from an interior to an exterior, transitions from an interior to an exterior, say leaves a doorway and then the loading happens and then they're outside. Say they only want to know when that occurs, or the other way around, when they go from the exterior to the interior, the transition, you'd say. And this is something that I've used extensively in many of my Daggerfall Unity mods. My Daggerfall Unity mods is subscribing to this specific event where the character transitions from a exterior and goes into a interior. But that's kind of the interesting flexibility with that kind of system, is that I can do so many different things depending on how I look at it or what I'm trying to do. I can do so many different things with that one singular event, just being subscribed to that one event. And I just do vastly different things. The reaction is vastly different from each mod that I have that does use it, that is subscribed to this. Even though all it is doing is watching for the same thing to occur. Like, say, and in this case, I'll just stay with the GTA example. When your character goes from the interior scene to the exterior, and, everything gets loaded and everything, it's all ready and all that, it decides to have some event happen. Or not so much event, that's a bad way to put it, because we're using the same term here, but let's not do that. I don't know what to call it exactly. Some reaction, something happen. And in this case, it is more than likely rolling some kind of RNG value, some kind of dice, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, rolling some value and deciding if something when that event occurs or when that event is triggered, whatever, deciding when to, deciding if it should spawn something. In this case, deciding if the random numbers determine, okay, spawn a small or a large plane, spawn a small or a large plane somewhere within, I don't know, 100 meters, some 100 meter circle around the proximity around the player, or something like that. Coming into towards the direction that they are currently at, like in that way, like to try and make it so they are currently able to see that plane going by and stuff. But it's like that is an event that is meant to simulate things going around and meant to simulate a kind of like living world sort of deal. That is why it's there. For the most part, that's why it's there. It's to make the world seem like it is. It's to fool the player into thinking that the world is going on around them, and stuff is occurring around them without them being involved, kind of thing. That's what it's for. The idea of like immersion or whatever. But what it really shows is the world. Ironically, once you realize what it's doing, is what it shows is the world does not go on around anybody but your character. The world does not do anything unless your character is involved, kind of. Or certain events do not happen if your character is not involved in some way. And that's why the immersion in that way can be broken when people realize this, like noticing that why is there so many planes going by every time I leave a building, like noticing the pattern that forms is how come whenever I'm leaving a shop or some shit, it seems to be very often that, surprisingly often that a small plane will come by and sometimes hit into like a nearby building or some shit. Like you'd think, well, planes wouldn't normally be doing that, going so low and stuff and near like buildings and shit. So that kind of, ironically, sort of can break that immersion almost when you notice the pattern going on. And the fact that you were the center of that occurrence. I guess I could call that an occurrence or whatever. It's like in, it's similar in, I mean, it is exactly the same, pretty much, in something like Skyrim, let's say, because that happened a lot, how the way they had their random encounters occur. So you'd be, say, walking on like a road or like to a certain, just a destination inside the exterior world. And then, say, on the road, you'd have somebody coming by in your direction, or somebody would just come up to you and, like, say something. A lot of the time, it would just be like, alright, fuck, that sucks. This is one of the reasons that, god damn it. So I'll have to do some editing, I guess, to put this together. Whatever. Excuse me, but, yeah, in Skyrim, you'll be going, like, just walking on a road, and then you'll kind of, like, suddenly maybe see, like, a mammoth and a giant walking together slowly, like, across wherever. Not even necessarily paying attention, exactly like the exact same way that the planes, just like right now, a plane going by, the plane would come by when CJ leaves the building or whatever and transitions to an exterior scene. Except in Skyrim's case, he's already in an exterior, or you're already in an exterior, and the game decides, okay, spawn another random event based on, probably in a lot of cases, based on the current, like, location that you're in, like what environment. Like, it might not say spawn the giant and the mammoth if you're, like, within some proximity to, like, a city or something, settlement or whatever. But it might spawn something else, like a traveling merchant, or even, like, maybe a mercenary on the road or whatever. Or if you're outside the city, outside one of those areas, it might spawn a pack of hostile wolves or some shit. Or like if it's night, it'll spawn a vampire or something. But it'll determine this based on, like, how long since the previous random encounter happened or random event happened. And then it'll roll some value when that timer comes up. When that event triggers of, okay, it's been this long since the last random event, tried to spawn a random encounter. If potentially these parameters are met or whatever. Shit. And the point I was trying to specifically make with that was, but that's how, like, other games would do it as well, in the same exact way. But they're there to kind of, like, make the world feel alive, as well as artificially feel alive, as well as make you feel more immersed in it. But if you notice the patterns, when they happen, then it actually kind of takes you away from the immersion. You realize that none of that stuff would happen. None of that stuff in that specific case, like the random encounters, would happen unless you are present. And it makes that one metaphor or analogy or saying or whatever, or riddle. I don't know if you consider that a riddle. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to observe it, does it make a sound? And in this case, it would be no. It would be no. The tree, if it falls in the woods, does not make a sound unless somebody, a reality generation being or whatever, a character like CJ or whatever you want to say, or us, is not around to observe it. It doesn't make a sound because that event was not triggered to even do that. Now, in this case, you could say that stuff still happens in the background, but certain things do not occur from that happening. Like, you can have background simulation things occur even if other events do not trigger from that happening. Like, let's say, for example, you went to this same specific spot in the woods somewhere, and you saw this one specific tree or something at this one specific spot. Let's say you went there 5 days ago, and the tree was completely upright and not knocked down at all. But then maybe you'll come back there 10 days or months from now, and you'll go to that spot, and the tree will have been knocked down, and it looks like it's been knocked down for a while. Well, that thing can occur, and those things in the sort of simulation, or whatever you want to say, the world around you, they can occur in the background, but only when you start to come within their proximity again do they actually, quote-unquote, update what occurred, I guess you could say. So that thing could have happened where a tree fell, but the actual event of, say, the sound being made from it falling, or whatever, the stuff happening from when it fell, that may not happen at all because you were not around to observe it. You were not around when that happened, or whatever, so it didn't happen. At least the sound itself didn't happen. But the actual falling of the tree or whatever can still happen. When you come nearby, it's obvious that the tree had fallen at some point. But it doesn't mean that it reacted and made a sound, or whatever, other things. That's just the kind of video game example. Like, I've done this before with things that I've worked, at least, not so much that I've done that specifically, but I've had plans to do that for, like, one project I was working on, where basically you'd have stuff happen even without the player around kind of in like a background simulation. Like there would be processing going on that would say that something like that happened. So then if the player came by again, then that thing will have shown the change or whatever. Like that tree will now be knocked over, even though that before you went there, in between the points that you went there, it wasn't knocked over. But something in that background simulation would said it should happen, so it does, and when you come back there, it shows that. Yeah, I don't know. I've been rambling on about this. Hopefully, it makes some kind of sense. But I think that's what. I don't think that's exactly what Rudy is talking about in this case, but what he's talking about with the Grand Theft Auto example with the planes and stuff. This is exactly what is happening in that case. Is that there is a event that was predetermined or predefined as a thing to trigger some event or occurrence. And then there was also reactions that could happen based on that are subscribed to that event to only trigger when that thing happens. Say like when Billy was making his video like 2 nights ago, where he had like 3 or 4 like planes or helicopters like come by all in like short time, and he had like fucking like a weird scream in the background and the gate closing seemingly without anybody being there or something. Like these sort of things cropping up as a reaction to what he is doing in a way. And I think that is kind of how this place works overall. Like, you know, just like I look at everything in this place as like a sort of video game in essence. And that's kind of like the best analogy or like metaphor for it that I kind of have is stuff like that where events are predetermined or in some way are predefined, and when those events happen, certain things can happen based on that. And if reality generation beings are not around, say like when Billy, when Rudy brought up that Billy, I guess, mentioned to him in a comment possibly that, or no, he mentioned something like when he would turn corners, seemingly there would always be something weird that would happen. Like when he would turn a corner at like a certain building, at like a block, at a certain block of a street, he would turn this corner, and something weird would happen. And that was exactly shown in the Matrix, I think, where whenever like Neo would turn a corner, like the stuff behind the wall would like do something or some shit like that. But that would be like an event. That would be an event that was made, was when Billy goes to that specific corner and turns that corner, then try to spawn potentially something around nearby for him to see or or notice or some shit like that, or something to occur, like something weird. And that's the exact same kind of thing. And now with I don't think this is on the exact same thing with the chaos theory, because I think that requires like more kind of in-depth look at it, but I think it is similar, but it kind of just brings on that same kind of concept of the quote-unquote player characters, the reality generation beings, are the ones that these events occur for and occur around. Like, if they're not around, then they don't necessarily happen, or they don't necessarily do exactly what they would do if they weren't around, kind of deal. Got another fucking plane going by up there. Exactly. Well, I've been home for a little while here, so I think I talked enough. Sucks that I have to do render the video because it got cut into 2 parts, but whatever. I'll be having to do that more often when I have a separate audio file and a separate video file anyway, so I just have to get used to it. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say for now. And I was glad I kind of got it out of my thoughts or whatever, sort of, or tried to get it out there in words. But yeah, I guess that's it, and you'll probably be seeing me more often, uploading some certain shit, within like another week or two or whatever. Possibly not necessarily related to this or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.